Hi friends, I am back. I'm filming this video on Tuesday the 14th and I don't know what day it's going live, but this is my first official work day back from the first break I've taken since Christmas. And I didn't necessarily have this video like in my schedule to do, but I kind of feel the need to just be super transparent about a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So this is probably going to be a very chatty, very honest video about kind of what's been happening behind the scenes for me for the past month, why I took a break, and also responding to some criticisms about things I agree with and things I disagree with, and changes I will be making. So this is just going to be very transparent. And I was honestly really hesitant to make this video for a few reasons. First is that coming back from this break, like I just don't want to think about some things or talk about some things anymore. I just kind of want to like leave it in the past. I really envy creators that can just keep things very surface level and light, because that sounds so easy and nice. You know, like if I only thrifted and never talked about anything going on in my life or behind the scenes, I envy that, but I can't do that. I feel the need to just be really open and honest, and that's scary because it's kind of like removing armor and being like, hey, here's the things that hurt, here's the things that I'm really sensitive about, have at it. And if I weren't to do this type of thing, I wouldn't be removing that armor per se. And also I just don't necessarily want to continue to bring attention to it for a couple reasons. I know that the more I'm open about like things I'm finding online, the more it just kind of fuels the fire. And I also don't want to focus on the negative. I was actually reading this book on my break. I started a while ago. It's called The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary, and it had some chapters that just really called me out. It literally had a whole chapter making fun of YouTubers, and it was so funny to me. But I'll just read a little excerpt of this. It says, I recently experienced a battering of "you suck" in a comment section. And if you pair it, don't read the comments at me, I'll point out that everyone reads the comments, and it wounded me deeply. And then it goes on and she says about how she compares it to being in an arena. And it says, she talks about how the vast majority of the arena are cheerleaders, but how we choose to zero in on and stare at and attempt to win over our fiercest critics. And by doing so, we're doing a disservice to our cheerleaders. I was failing to appreciate my supporters. So reading that, I was like, oh, I don't want to make this video because I want to just focus on the cheerleaders, but there's a lot that went on behind the scenes. So first I'm going to kind of explain why this last month was really hard for me. And it's not just about online things. Yet again, hesitant to share all this because I know my life is so good. I'm so honored to be doing this as a job, and I don't want to seem like I'm complaining, but there were a lot of factors that I think affected me more than I wanted to admit. Starting with, I did a video about a month ago talking about how I had a really bad lupus flare-up, and that was really difficult to work through because I couldn't get my medication refilled for quite a while, and it really kind of knocked me down for a couple weeks. And then immediately after that, I got COVID, and that was frustrating because I also had to work through that because I had signed too many contracts, which we are going to get to later. But I worked the whole time that I had COVID. I think I recorded 6 videos, and I was so incredibly lonely because Brook couldn't be here, and I was just like feeling defeated from having a bad couple of weeks with lupus and then a bad couple of weeks with COVID and working through all of it. And then my first day out of quarantine, I made a longer quarantine for myself just to be extra cautious. It was my first time having social plans, and I was having friends over, just 3 girls from church, and that was the day that I actually got a comment. I didn't Google my name or anything of the sorts. I got a comment that I thought was a total scam, being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what they're saying about you on blank. And I get so many comments like that all the time. It's normally like inappropriate, like click here, 18 and older type of thing. So I just like kind of automatically reported it as spam because there's a lot of spam bots. And then afterward I was like, oh wait, that's weird, there wasn't a clickable link. So I looked up what they said and went down this long, deep, dark hole of reading a lot of assumptions and criticism, some valid, some not, about me. And there's not just one site. I ended up finding multiple. And I don't know if it was good for me to read all that at once, but I was kind of surprised with myself. I was like, like, obviously I can tell that this is a lot to take in, but I'm surprised I'm not as upset as I would expect myself to be. I was kind of like, interesting. I don't know if that's just kind of the first step, is you're just kind of numb about it, but I was genuinely kind of like, and talked to Brooke about it. We went out and we got, treats, pastries, and I was like, okay, like, I think that maybe I'll take it easy today, but I'm, ready to get back on work tomorrow. And I was pretty surprised with myself and looking forward to seeing friends for the first time that night. Friends came over. We ordered from a Chinese restaurant and they had an allergen menu. And if you guys don't know, I also have celiac disease. I have a whole fun slew of health issues, meaning I have to be very cautious about eating gluten-free. And there was a beef soup that was gluten-free. And I was like, great, I'll just do that. Easy. The best soup of my life. I ate every single last drop. It was so flavorful. It was so good. And later came to realize, when I was like, what is in that soup? Because it was so dang good. They had 2 beef soups. They had a regular one and a gluten one. And I had eaten every single last drop of the one that was not gluten-free. And at first I didn't know. This took me a couple days to realize, because my stomach was still kind of messed up from COVID. And the next day I just woke up devastated. Like, the weirdest phenomenon I had ever experienced. I'm a pretty happy person. I'm a pretty stressed out person, but I'm a pretty happy person. But I had never experienced this. It was a full week of cycling between just being completely numb or just sobbing. And it was the weirdest thing. I do know that I remember learning this when I first got diagnosed with celiac and was reading all the books, that 90% of serotonin is produced in the small intestine, in your villi, and that's what gets attacked. So obviously sometimes getting gluten can have pretty severe effects on your mental health. And I think it was the perfect storm of having so many health things happen to me back to back, and then reading something, going down a rabbit hole of reading everyone's opinions about me, good and bad, and then having another health thing that really wrecked my mental health happen. And I cannot tell you how odd it was for me to be on such a thin string. Like, I had never felt that before, where I kid you not, everything was making me cry, and that is so unlike me. I normally cry 3 to 4 times a year, but the music was too loud and I just would start sobbing. Or we were gonna go get our car washed and the line was too long and Brooke said I have to get home for a meeting, and I started sobbing. Things that it's stupid to cry about. That's when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm broken. This is not Michel. And that was a really, really shitty way to feel. I had never felt like that before. And it gives me a really, really soft spot to people that deal with anxiety and depression, because it truly feels so out of your control. I know I only felt like that for a week, but it felt so out of my control. So that's a lot of what was happening behind the scenes. I was telling my therapist, I was like, I think I would have handled it so much better if I didn't have all these health things happen back to back to back, because I really think that it was the storm of everything happening at once that made me just feel so devastated about everything. So that's when I decided it's time to take a break. And I pushed a lot of videos because I wanted as few videos as possible to go live while I was on my break, so I wouldn't have to monitor comments or anything like that as much as possible. So only one video went live during my break, and I actually have some videos that are going to come out that I filmed with COVID, filmed before my break. So things seem weird in my future videos, that's why. But I want to address some of the criticisms that I have read, some constructive, some destructive, and this is just me being honest. So let's get into it. I will say I haven't checked any of those sites online since the day after I found it. I don't know what's being said since then. I have no plans to check it ever again in the future, any of them. It would mean a lot to me as well if you guys support me, just to not give those sites any traffic. I know people on those sites tend to think that they're for the good, but I tend to think that they are created not for constructive criticism. And like I said, there's some things that I have always known and agree with, and some things that I won't tolerate. Let's start with the things I won't tolerate, and then we'll get into the things that I agree with. Things I won't tolerate is comments about my weight or my body. That is just not acceptable as humans to any human. I have not worked out in over a month for the reasons that I have outlined, between the lupus flare-up, COVID, getting sick, taking time off, and yeah, my weight fluctuates. That's part of being human. So I don't think that that is something that should ever be commented on to anybody online. I will not tolerate hurtful stereotypes about my faith or my religion. Though I am a Christian, have always made it a big goal of mine to be accepting and to learn about other people's religion and their faith, because that's something so deeply personal to a person and something that has a lot of stereotypes, which is weird. We tie a lot of assumptions to people's religions, and that's something that I really strive to never do for someone that believes something differently than me. And I just don't want to deal with people making assumptions about me, my beliefs, my lifestyle, my politics, anything like that based off of my faith and my religion. That's something deeply personal, something that I think nobody should judge anybody for, no matter what religion they practice. And then the last thing that I will never tolerate is any sort of assumption about any of my loved ones, my husband, my family, anything like that. I try to not show my loved ones as much as possible online because I'm so protective over them, and I know that online can be a rough place and they didn't ask for this life. But obviously if I'm sharing my life, the people I'm closest to will be a part of it, but they didn't ask to be a part of it. Obviously I'm not putting them on the internet against their will, but I just feel like it falls on me to protect them from hurtful comments. So yeah, those I will not tolerate. But the criticisms I do agree with, and I guess this is one that I agree with and disagree with. I saw a lot of people being like, she has such thin skin, and it irks me that she thinks she has thick skin. I have never once thought I had thick skin. I often talk about how much I dislike how thin my skin is. Things rub me the wrong way. I care too deeply. Definitely care what people think about me too deeply, and it is probably the thing I dislike about myself the most. I wish I had thicker skin. So that's something I guess I both agree and disagree with. Disagree with the fact that I ever thought I had thick skin, but I agree with the fact that I do have very thin skin. And the only thing I dislike more than my thin skin is my privilege. And I saw that quite a bit, and it's something I think about a lot and often. Is I know that I am so incredibly privileged in so many ways. And like I said, it's something I think about often. There's very little I can do to go back and change my upbringing. I'm so thankful for my parents for giving me an amazing childhood, but yes, it was a very privileged childhood, and I can't go and change my ethnicity, but all I can do is be aware of my privilege, call it out, and try to use it to the best of my ability. But yes, I agree. I'm so privileged. That is something I have always known. Let's talk about deleting comments. Yes, I do delete some comments, and I also have a lot of filters on my comments because I have such thin skin. I don't delete as many comments as I think people think I delete. For example, the last comment I deleted was 2 days ago. Something along the lines of, "You're making it so easy for people to hate you." Or "You sure are making it easy for people to hate you online." Something along those lines, which is not constructive, makes me feel bad, does no good. So of course, I deleted it. I delete things like that. The way I see it is, online, I am welcoming people into my home. This is my space on the internet that I choose to welcome strangers and friends into. I could make my social media private and not open the door to people, but I choose to make it public, and then since I see it as my home, I feel like I reserve the right to tell people who are blatantly disrespectful that they're not welcome to speak into my life. However, I do think that there are plenty of constructive comments that might get filtered out. I have a lot of protective filters in YouTube Studio. Basically, if any word or phrase that falls within those protective filters, and YouTube has some of their own as well, flags, it gets pulled into an area for review. And I think oftentimes creators go through those and say like, yes, 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 these are fine, they can be posted. No, 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 these are spam, or they're just very hateful, so they cannot be posted. But I don't look at that. it's not worth sorting through all of the terrible, terrible comments for me to find the ones that are valid to approve. Just because I know I cannot handle that mentally. I might not be mentally strong enough, mentally healthy enough to do so. So I think that I've gotten comments from people that are like, hey, Michel, I think you deleted my comment. And I've been like, I did not see your comment and it might have been filtered out, but I don't go to that dark corner of YouTube Studio. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess I did use a phrase that probably is a phrase that would get blocked, even though I wasn't calling you that, you know? So that happens often. And I'm sorry if that happens to your comments, but I cannot go sort through that. Maybe one day I can hire someone to do that for me down the line, but that's me being honest. And the thing that I have known for the longest time is that I have taken on too many jobs, too many campaigns, too many sponsorships, and I have known that. And I just kind of want to explain how it happens behind the scenes. It's nobody's fault but my own. I'm figuring this out as I go. Unfortunately, I did not go to college for this. This is not a job I got hired to do and had someone train me to do. It's a trial and error, and I'm learning as I go, and I've made an error by overcommitting, being an Enneagram 3, and I wish I could take it back, but I've signed too many contracts. The way it works is a brand that I love, and I feel so blessed to have so many brands I adore ask to work with me. And of course I say, oh my gosh, yes. And they say, okay, we'll circle back and we'll do maybe one in this month, this month, this month, this month. And I'm saying, okay, great, we'll circle back and I'll sign the contract. And then another brand will do the same thing. And I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, I love you. I would love to work with you. I talk about you all the time, even when I haven't worked with you. Let's do it. Same thing. Okay, we'll do one Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We'll circle back and figure out the exact dates. A month will roll around and I'll start trying to plug in those contracts to dates. And I will realize, oh my gosh, I overcommitted. And that became really transparent too when I have had, health flare-ups and haven't been able to take off work because I signed a legal contract. So for my own sake, it's been detrimental. And then I know that it honestly just doesn't look good. But it's been hard to realize that months ago. And I have explained this in videos previously being like, I have overcommitted, but not be able to make those changes immediately. I'm pretty much like full and I'm not accepting any additional sponsorships up until the middle of December. And I plan to change things a lot in 2022. But there's nothing I can really do about it now. I do really envy jobs that are freelance, that are not public, like photographers or editors that can take on as much work as they want, because me as an Enneagram 3 likes to try to do as much as possible and also hates telling people no. I want to try to make brands I love work. I want to make it work. But I'm realizing as I go that that's not this domain. You can't do that when you have a public-facing job and when your work is public. I'm used to having previous jobs that are private, and like when I worked in social media, I could take on as many clients as I wanted. I could overwork myself. No one knew. It didn't affect anyone besides me, but this affects this whole community. And like I said, I'm learning as I go. And I'm a 24-year-old trying to figure it out in this weird job that has no explanations and you're just kind of thrown into it. And I think my personality type made mistakes with thinking I could do more than I could in all ways. So that's why I have obviously realized this months ago, but there hasn't been any changes yet. Things are slowing down a little bit. November's gonna be pretty busy, but 2022 I plan to make a lot of changes. And I've already turned down so many brands that I have loved and worked with for years. For Q4, just because I'm like, I've realized I've already overcommitted and I cannot squeeze in anymore. So that's what's going on behind the scenes there. This video is getting so long, but I wanted to talk to you about changes that I'm making. I guess we talked about the sponsors, changes that I'm making there, but it was so weird to take a break and nobody knows where I went, what I did. I had a really, really great week off. The first few days, I think I was still getting over making myself sick and was just in a weird depressive spiral, constantly crying. But after I started to feel better, I had a really great week off. I get emotional talking about it because like I'm known as the happy girl, so it feels very vulnerable to be like, yeah, I think depressed for a whole week, spiraling. doesn't feel fun to say out loud. Changes I want to make moving forward. One thing obviously is not Googling my name. I don't think that like from an evolutionary point of view, we are equipped to handle reading so many people's opinions about things and especially about ourselves. If we think about like us as humans, we had small tribes or clans of people. We lived in small towns. We didn't have technology to communicate and to share ideas and to share opinions and to share assumptions. And so the only people that spoke into our lives were people that truly, truly knew us. And though I share so much of my life online, if you think about it, I post 3 videos a week, 20 minutes each. So I share an hour of my week every single week, which is, how many hours are in a week? Which is 1/168th of my life. So I share a lot of it, but I think that a lot of people speaking into my life really do not know the other 167 hours of my week. So it's gonna be hard for me mentally to take that with a grain of salt and to sort through all of the noise about people's opinions about me. And a lot of them are great and a lot of them are very helpful, and even critical ones I know come from a place of love, but navigating that is something I'm going to learn to do going forward, and not sharing as much. Like I was saying, that break, nobody knows where I went, and it feels weird to have something that's just for me. Like I have those memories and nobody besides my husband, my immediate family, and my best friend know what I did that whole week, where I even went. And though I want to share, I want to keep that as like a challenge to myself of like, not everything has to be for consumption. Some things can be just for me. And that's cool because I've never looked at life that way before, which sounds silly. I'm also lowering my income goals a lot. I obviously, working in a field where income can fluctuate so much, always work and live out of fear that, you know, the future is so unknown, but I have figured out exactly how much I need to survive and then save for retirement, and that's it. And anything beyond that was savings anyways, so my goal is not to necessarily fill up those savings right now. I think shifting my mindset away from fear of the future and saving money in case something bad happens is going to be helpful for me, not overcommitting to work as well. I'm not going to hold myself to as strict of a schedule. I'm going to try to stick with Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, but if some days I need to shift some things or skip a video or add in a video, I'm not going to beat myself up about it too much. And I'm not going to worry about video performance as much as well. I've been kind of racking my brain for like, what's something I can do in this vlog to make it seem interesting enough to where people will actually want to watch it. But I'm just, you know, I'm not gonna care as much anymore. I'm just gonna share my life. If people want to watch it, cool. If they don't, cool. That's kind of the new mentality. I'm gonna try to adapt. More breaks, not sharing everything all the time, which is what I was mentioning. Not everything has to be shared. Finding hobbies. I feel like I realized I need some hobbies that are not for social media or for monetization purposes. So I actually think I'm gonna try a yoga membership for a while. I love Pilates, but I feel like that would be good for mental health as well, because yoga's a lot more breath work and things like that. I also want to get back into cooking for fun, not following recipes, because that's what I did when I first moved here and I loved it and it led me to Taste Made. So I'm going to try that as well. And then last but not least is a change I'm going to make is holding close to the knowledge that I can always quit. I can always quit. I'm young. I have so many things I could do. If I want to be in a lucrative job, I feel like I'd be really good working in sales. And then if I want to just enjoy life, I think it would be so fun to work in a coffee shop or something like that. We would definitely have to move out of this house, but that's okay, you know? So I think holding close to that mindset of like, life can change so much. I'm so young. This is not what I'm going to be doing forever. I mean, as of now, I love it so much that I'd love to, but the reality is we don't know, you know? Those are the changes I'll be making. This was a very, very long, chatty video, I know, kind of rambly, but I just think it's important to take off that armor and expose where I'm hurt and just be as honest with you as possible. Like friends in real life, I want to take the risk of being vulnerable so that you know what's going on in my world, in my life, because like I said, you really see so little that it's hard to truly know and express what I'm thinking, feeling, going through. And it's been a weird month. It's given me a lot of clarity. Things will be changing in the future, slowly but surely, as I phase out of Q4 and into 2022. But thank you for your patience and your support and for the sweet messages. They've really, truly gotten me through my break, I had my Instagram set to 1 minute a day of screen time, and then it would lock me out. So those 1 minutes a day, I would just kind of glance at messages that I was getting, and it meant the world. So thank you to everyone who's been so sweet and supportive. I love y'all with my whole heart. Videos will be back to regular programming starting Monday. Like I said, a few of those videos were filmed during COVID, so sorry if I seem out of it. I will see y'all in those videos. I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to be my friend. I can't say it enough. It means a lot. Bye.
So give me a sign. Give me a sign. Oh, give me a sign. Baby, give me a sign. Just give me one more talking to you. Here we go again. Staying up all night to see if you've been texting me. Where do we go from here? I wanna go all in.